Bridgewater Triangle is an infamous 200-square-mile area in southeastern Massachusetts. The boundaries marked by the towns of Abington, Rehoboth, and Freetown. Known for its high concentration of paranormal activity, this area has earned its reputation as one of the most mysterious and haunted locations in the United States. Within the Triangle, visitors report experiences ranging from cryptid sightings and UFO encounters to ghostly apparitions and strange creatures. Some humans have even been found murdered. For over 12,000 years, the Wampanoag tribe lived in Massachusetts and were one of the first tribes to encounter the Mayflower Pilgrims. The Wampanoag inhabited the area that now makes up the Bridgewater Triangle and considered much of this land sacred, particularly the Hockomock Swamp, a vast and foreboding wetland they called the place where spirits dwell. Some believe the paranormal activity in the Triangle is linked to the tragic events that followed European colonization, especially King Phillips War, which lasted from 1675 to 1678. King Phillips War was named after the Wampanoag chief, Metacom, who adopted the English name of Philip, and it's considered the deadliest war per capita in American history. Both Wampanoag and European colonists engaged in brutal warfare, making no distinction between soldiers and civilians. More than half of the 90 towns in New England had been attacked by different tribes. 12 towns were completely destroyed. It is estimated that as many as 2,500 colonists had been killed, which was 30% of the English population in New England. The war was even more devastating for the natives, leaving the Wampanoag effectively landless and leading to 5,000 indigenous deaths and another 1,000 being sold into slavery. Chief Metacom was assassinated in 1676, and his head was displayed on a pole for 25 years at the gate of Plymouth, Massachusetts. His body was cut into quarters and hung from trees. His right hand was given as a trophy to the assassin. It is said that a curse was placed upon the land, causing the supernatural disturbances that persist to this day. The Lizzie Borden house, located in the city of Fall River, Massachusetts, is right on the southern edge of the Bridgewater Triangle, and it's the site of one of America's most infamous unsolved murders. On August 4th, 1892, Andrew and Abby Borden were found brutally hacked to death in their home. Andrew with 11 axe wounds, and Abby with 18. Both victims received brutal trauma to the head. Andrew received most of his wounds to the face. Suspicion immediately fell on Andrew's daughter, Lizzie Borden, due to her conflicting alibi and unusual behavior. Though she was arrested and tried and believed by many to have committed the murders, Lizzie was ultimately acquitted, and the crime remains a mystery to this day. Built in 1845, the house has since gained a reputation as one of the most haunted locations in the U.S. Numerous reports of paranormal activity include shadow figures, unexplained footsteps, and eerie voices. Today, it operates as a bed and breakfast and museum, attracting ghost hunters and true crime enthusiasts from around the world. Freetown Fall River State Forest, located 6 miles east of the Borden house, has its own famous history of murders, deaths, and hauntings. On September 8, 1978, 15-year-old Mary Lou Arruda vanished while riding her bicycle near her home in Raynham, Massachusetts. Her body was discovered 2 months later, tied to a tree in the forest. Authorities established Mary Lou was still alive when bound, but fell unconscious. Her head had slumped down, and she ended up strangled by her bindings. Police arrested James Cater, a convicted kidnapper, who had tied another girl to a tree in the past. Cater was eventually found guilty after multiple trials. The Carl Drew Satanic Cult murders began 1 year after Mary Lou's death. Some believe the series of brutal killings marked the beginning of satanic panic, a hysteria which swept through the world during the 80s and early 90s. The first murder occurred in October 1979, when Doreen Levesque, a 17-year-old runaway, was found beneath a high school bleacher. She had been beaten, strangled, and had signs of ritualistic abuse. 3 months later, 19-year-old Barbara Raposa was discovered murdered in a similar fashion. The most horrifying case came in February 1980, when 20-year-old Karen Marsden, an acquaintance of Drew, was tortured and sacrificed in a satanic ritual. Witnesses later testified that Drew forced her to denounce God before beating her with a rock, ripping out her hair, stabbing her eyes, cutting her throat, and allegedly beheading her, using only his hands. The top half of Karen's skull was the only part of her body that was ever found. Carl Drew was convicted of first-degree murder in 1981 and sentenced to life in prison. His accomplice, Robin Murphy, testified against him, but later recanted. Throughout the 1980s and 90s, the forest continued to be a hotspot for cult activity. Grave robbings became rampant among cemeteries. Human bones, along with dead pigeons and cats, were found at satanic altars throughout the forest, being used as offerings to the Dark Lord. On one occasion, 3 teens broke into a graveyard and cut the head off the corpse of a woman using a saw. After being caught, one of the teens said he wanted to drink from her skull so that he could gain powers. Many abandoned dwellings with satanic markings have been found deep within the forest. One such building was a wood shack, dubbed the Drew House. The size of a jail cell, the walls were lined with pentagrams, and there were signs of ritualistic activity. Outside of the shack, dolls' heads were nailed to trees. Another ominous structure was an underground bunker, which has since collapsed. There was a large pentagram drawn on the floor, and a small chair for a child, which was carved from a tree. Children's clothes were found strewn about the bunker, leading to multiple theories as to what had been taking place within the walls. In 1998, 12 young cows were found mutilated in the forest. Their bodies were completely drained of blood. A lead investigator believed the blood was being used during satanic rituals. After the cows were discovered, the cult activity within the forest stopped. Reports of tall, dark figures with red eyes have taken place throughout the forest. The figures are usually peering from around trees, watching, or following hitchhikers from a distance. It's rumored that they disappear when you shine a flashlight at them. Theories suggest these dark entities are satanic in nature and were summoned by the cultists. The Assonet Ledge, or the Ledge, is known as a place where humans unalive themselves, and where some have reportedly felt an overwhelming urge to jump. People have claimed to see orbs floating above the water, and ghostly figures standing on the edge. Primarily, a lady dressed in all white. Local folklore says that long ago, a young woman was told by her love to meet her atop the ledge at night. The young woman waited and waited, but her love never showed. Heartbroken, she threw herself off the ledge, falling to her death. There have been countless reports of unalivings that supposedly took place at the ledge, but only one such incident has been reported to authorities. In 2004, while on a picnic with friends and family, a young man with no prior history of mental illness leapt to his death in front of all of them. This event shocked his family, and some believe that the ghost lady of Assonet Ledge caused the man to jump. But there is another theory as to why humans take the plunge off the Assonet Ledge, something I didn't mention. If you haven't noticed, we've spent the whole video in the town of Fall River and the Fall River State Forest, only focusing on deaths, cults, and their related apparitions. Well, this is merely a fraction of the Bridgewater Triangle, and there is still much more craziness going on in the forest, including the creature known for luring people to their deaths, the Puck, Wudgie. Thank you for watching part 1 of the Bridgewater Triangle. If you enjoyed the video, please consider dropping a like, sharing, and subscribing. If you would like to help support my channel, check out the links in the description. Until we meet again, stay safe out there, humans.